carbs you're eating. So that's, in my mind, one of the hugest myths out there.
I just had a question regarding the role of dairy products in causing inflammation to the body in general. So what are your thoughts about it?
I think that's another myth. I think there are people who are sensitive to different proteins, and so there are potential that people are sensitive to gluten or to something else. I think that most people just simply have bad diets, and if they clean up their diet, they won't have that sensitivity. So there's two aspects of milk. One would be the lactose, and the other would be the protein. The lactose is what we call an inducible enzyme. So if you stop consuming any dairy products when you're 14 and you come back and you try it when you're 30, your body won't handle it. But what the research shows is if you begin to dose it over slow amounts of time, your body will regenerate that enzyme and you'll handle lactose fine. So lactose intolerance is an issue of lactose disuse. Okay? In terms of proteins, there are issues of being sensitive to some proteins, but most of that self-diagnosed issues are not protein issues actually at all. So there are other sorts of things. Okay. So in terms of the general things out there, like the paleo diet, things that say dairy is inflammatory, the research doesn't back that up.
Just another question, actually. So with regards to, I don't know, I didn't really touch about this, but creatine as a supplement, what do you think about that?
The research is really solid about creatine and muscle development. So, it affects muscle size and strength. So if you're an endurance athlete, there's no real benefit to it. But if you're trying to be a football lineman in the U.S. or a baseball player, somebody who's strength and size oriented, there's definitely an effect. It takes at least 2 grams a day consistently to have an effect. Most people will start with like a 10-gram starting dose and then go down to 2 grams. But if you stop taking it, you'll lose both the mass and the strength within a week. So it's kind of an artificial. Nobody really knows quite why it works. One of the best theories is it actually makes the cells bigger. It's sort of a water effect. And as soon as you stop taking it, it goes away. But it is effective.
So does it help with muscle health per se?
No, it would not be useful in metabolic. If it was useful, we would have it in it.
Several questions, and it's like, for example, if you're talking about your probiotics earlier, and I tried to convert some of my friends when I showed it to them, and the first thing they saw palm oil in it, and they're like, sorry, I can't buy your product. They're totally against anything that uses palm oil in the product.
I'm thinking about palm oil in the probiotic. Is it palm oil in the probiotic?
It's in it.
Well, palm oil is actually medium-chain triglycerides, so it's actually very good for you.
It's bad for the environment, and considering that it's the palm oil industry that they're actually standing up against to some of my friends, so they refuse to buy the product.
We could have a very long discussion about environment and foods and things like that and get into that, but as a nutrition question you've asked me, I'm not an environmentalist, and I don't know about palm growing in Malaysia. So you can have your own opinions about that, but as a nutritionist, palm oil is fine.
It's just my friends; they're pretty much organic all the way. So
and like I said, you can have your own environmental issues, and that's not part of my purview. So that's not our products. Our products are come from very good companies. We screen them in terms of their quality, both when they come in and also in our secondary products. So in terms of a nutritional biochemical standpoint, our products are great. In terms of how the palms may be raised in Malaysia, I have no idea.
Yeah, and the next thing is, now that I know you just said about fructose, because I was curious about per sachet in, let's say, Prime, for example, how much is the sugar level in it? But you say it's natural sugar, so it's easier to burn than
yeah, so So there's lots of different discussions about sugar, and so the thing to remember is the body needs about 100 grams of sugar per day. The brain runs on sugar. It runs on glucose. And so we really have to have it. If you don't eat it, then your body has to make it from protein, which we can do. But so we need sugar per day. The problem for most people where sugar is bad is they're eating 200 grams instead of 100 or 90. So they're eating 2 or 3 times what they need. So that's where it gets the bad name. Fructose we use because fructose has no insulin effect. And so what we're trying to do is get a carbohydrate aspect to balance the meal. We're doing 2 things. One, we want the product to taste so you'll drink it, okay? And if it tastes bitter like amino acids already do, nobody's going to drink it. So we have to sweeten it. So we use fructose, which is a natural sugar, and one the body digests and handles without stimulating insulin. So that's why we use it. We could have used an artificial sweetener. We don't like artificial sweeteners. We don't want to use aspartame or sucralose, so we use a natural one. So that's why we use it.
And on metabolic, when you say 1 pack a day, how much water do you use it with? Because
whatever you like. The package says 8 ounces.
Okay. Am I doing something wrong? Because mine tends to get lumpy, whatever temperature of the water is, mine tends to get really lumpy. And I couldn't drink it.
Don't know. I
tried the
had one this
vanilla
morning and
the
it was
chocolate.
perfectly fine.
Mine tends to get lumpy. I tried
you
2
know,
packs.
you just have to shake it up. I don't know. You know, if you don't shake it well, it can be lumpy. But, I don't know about that.
I have one question. I've seen some write-up about this low-fat diets and no sugar added. A lot of products we see in the market, low-fat diets, low-fat livers, and no sugar added. And it's we're using fructose. They use fructose in those liquids diet to make it more tasty. And it says that fructose is not a good kind of sugar to eat every day.
So that, you know, if you follow that, that says you should never eat fruit. I mean, if you believe that, then you should never eat fruit, okay? Because that's where the name comes from. It's the sugar in fruit, fructose, okay? So that says a strawberry is bad for you, okay? So you have to follow this through. The issue is amount. The reason that fructose got a bad name is that in the the United States switched to high fructose corn syrup instead of using beet sugar. And the name high fructose made that bad, okay? And people then started putting it in all sorts of products, and instead of having 80 grams of carbohydrate sugars per day, they were eating 200, okay? It wasn't that the fructose was bad, it was that people were eating too much of it, okay? Nutrition is definitely a U-shaped curve. If you have too little, you're in trouble, and if you have too much, you're in trouble. So what you're trying to get is the right range. Everything in nutrition has a bad range. Water is toxic if you take too much of it. Oxygen is toxic if you take too much of it. Okay? There's nothing in nutrition that doesn't have a bad range someplace. But they're also very essential for you if you get them right. And so what we're doing is balancing in the right ways.
It seems like in the States, celiac disease is a big deal, and it's starting to happen more in Asia. And then people are starting to go towards more of a gluten-free diet, and they're claiming all kinds of food sensitivities. And with regard to that, I know that's kind of a complicated thing. How does the metabolic fit into that, and would it help correct any of it?
For the most part, our products are gluten-free. Our products are gluten-free, so they fit into it. Celiac disease is a very real disease, but it also has a very real diagnosis. And most people who've had a little bit of a GI distress decide they've got celiac disease. Okay. The issue is high carbohydrate diets are very upsetting. They're very inflammatory to the body, and most people who lower their gluten consumption, what they're really doing is lowering their carbohydrate consumption. So if that's your route to lowering it, is getting stop using wheat products and oat products and things that have gluten in them. If that's your approach, I'm okay with it, but it's not really a gluten problem. So if you think you have celiac disease, then go to the doctor and get it diagnosed, but don't self-diagnose yourself. It's in terms of prevalence in the United States, the number of people who think they have it is probably 8 out of 10, and the number who actually have it is probably 1 out of 100,000.
Hello. Yeah, I want to ask about the just like talking about the core essential, right? Then now, if there is one of the benefit is to anti-inflammation, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Anti-inflammation. Core essential, there is a benefit of to be able to inflammation.
Oh, the
Benefits of
essential.
core essentials. For the essentials.
Core essential, one of the properties is anti-inflammatory.
Why is it
No,
anti-inflammatory?
there is this function. Then there is this benefit, right? So for those who has a skin disease or skin problems, as in like eczema or the skin problem, is it good to?
I don't see any negative to it, but I don't have any real reason to think it would help with skin problems. So it will help more with joint problems. It's more of a issue with inflammatory things like joints and things, or post-workout muscle soreness, things that relate to prostaglandin-based soreness. I mean, the two enzymes that it's affecting are called LOX and COX. The leukotriene oxidase enzyme and the cyclooxygenase enzyme is controlling those two, which are part of the prostaglandin inflammation category. So I don't think it would have anything to do with skin.
Thank you.
Hi. Do you know much about leptin, the hormone leptin,
Yeah,
and its
quite a bit.
effect on the metabolism?
Yeah.
Can
What would
you
you like to
share?
know?
Does it really work? How
I
does
think
it
it's
really work?
overplayed. It's one of the appetite regulating hormones released from adipose, and so as adipose goes down in size, leptin will actually go up, and it's actually considered to be a hormone trigger to cause you to eat. The issue is that when adipose gets bigger, it will actually go down, and that causes people. And so people have argued that it's a satiety-related hormone, and if you find people who are genetically deficient in it, they actually will all be obese because you lost a regulation. But no one has ever found it to be regulatory in a meal sense. Okay, it's kind of like a long-term determining hormone, so it kind of measures your fat over years. It kind of shifts with it, but it doesn't have much to do with day-to-day regulations. So in terms of a regulatory hormone, we've never found it to be very important. There are people who are deficient in it, and that's a real problem. But for people, day-to-day levels of it don't seem to do much.
Just had a question about the metabolic charge. So this is the one which actually makes it kind of extends the window of effect. Is that basically branch chain amino acids that are inside it?
Yeah, it's pretty, I mean, a little more technical detail here. So the whole aspect of what we discovered in my laboratory was one of the essential amino acids is called leucine. And it specifically triggers a hormone that is called mTOR. And that stimulates muscle protein synthesis, which is where all this igniting muscle energy comes from. And so what we found was the exact amounts of these branched-chain amino acids that would cause that to happen. And we've published many papers on that. And so what we've done in that package is basically reproduce it in about a 25 kilocalorie package of material. We can get that effect. And you can get almost the effect of, it's like 50% the effect of a shake just by having those. You say, well, why can't I just do that instead of taking shea? The problem is it triggers this process of protein synthesis. And as soon as you do that, then you need all the other amino acids too. So it's great at triggering it, but it won't run very long. But once you've already got it triggered from a meal, it will help extend it. So that's a lot more complex.
Should I just start BCA pill instead of that?
Yeah, it's sort of in that category.
Is there anything
You'd have to
else?
look at what those are. The whole concept was invented in my lab, so all those BCA pills are trying to copy what we did. So you can either get it from the guy who discovered it, or you get it from the people who are pretending to know what I show.
Now, one final question, Dr. Layman. How about those who has got, for example, who suffers from benign brain tumor or any sort of tumor growth in the body? Is it good, or should they take metabolic shake and recharge?
So the two things that, one is when you work in natural products, you never talk about diseases, okay? So I don't talk about diseases. So now I'm going to talk about diseases. That was my disclaimer. Two things. One is that, so what you posed is a person who already had a cancer.
Yes.
Okay? And so probably the biggest growth promoting aspect for tumor growth is insulin. It's a growth hormone, remember what I said? So the best way to reduce tumor growth is lower your carbohydrate intake. Okay? So metabolic's good for that. Okay? The other thing is that what we know is one of the biggest predictors of surviving cancer treatment, chemotherapies, radiation therapies, is muscle health. And metabolic's great for that. Cancer cachexia, loss of muscle during cancer treatment, is the leading cause of dying from cancer. And so surviving the treatment is the biggest thing. And metabolic, actually, one of the things that we were doing, that I'm going to be doing in Bangkok at the end of the week, is I'm talking with Mega Life Sciences and CP Foods, and we're talking about medical foods that will be designed for treating people who have compromised eating capacity.
So if there's no further questions, we'd like to join me to thank Dr. Layman for his insightful sharing. Thank you.
So